Hello, it's Gabrielle here. So this is the third session in this series that I've put on, which is all about making yourself your priority. And today is when we sort of really get to the heart of the matter. So just going to find all my notes here. Okay. Right, let's get started. So just a really quick recap. Last week, I did 2 sessions. I talked about what we need now at this age group from a health and fitness point of view. And then on Friday, we talked about the blockers, the list of things that we know we should be doing is actually very small and very straightforward. What's really difficult for us is to actually do the things that we know we should. And that's something that I would just really want to focus on. Because that's the key, isn't it? The things that we should be doing are easy. They never change. We can sort of forget that sometimes because we keep looking for things that work rather than being conscious and aware that there are several forces at play that are stopping us from taking care of ourselves. So today, it's all about making yourself a priority, making yourself your own priority, and how you do that. And I'm going to start with a story that makes me feel quite sad, actually. And this is a client that I worked with some time ago, and an absolutely lovely lady that I was really, really fond of. And she had really serious knee problems that she, as a result of an accident, so not any of her own fault, plus a couple of other health issues. And it really had affected her mobility. She was in a lot of pain constantly. She was stressed, she was tired, and she was also overweight. And that wasn't helping the fact that she was diabetic, and it wasn't helping the problems with her knees. So she came to have PT sessions to try and do something to help herself. But most times she came after work and she was just too shattered to actually work out. I really couldn't train her because sometimes she was just on her knees, literally. We had to do really gentle exercise because she was so tired. But then would go home and clean a house. And she was just a classic example to me of somebody who I got to know really well, who really did need to look after herself and start looking after herself more. But she just could not prioritize herself. She couldn't say no. She worked full time. She was really house proud, did a lot of cleaning. She doted on her family. She had grown-up children who she really helped all the time. She had grandchildren who she looked after. And she really didn't have any time for herself, and her and I, when you're a personal trainer, you spend quite a lot of time with people, getting to know them really well. And I know she struggled with that. I know she struggled with her mood and feeling maybe a little bit resentful sometimes because she didn't have time to look after herself. But she didn't know how to say no. And so she didn't exercise. She worked. She came to me once a week. She had lots of convenience foods and takeaways, because she was too tired. She was so tired, she was shattered, she didn't have enough time to cook. And of course, the food that she was eating wasn't helping her with her health condition, with the health conditions that she was trying to tackle. So it was just this awful cycle of knowing that she was struggling, but her life being so complicated and so congested that she just didn't have the capacity or the energy to exercise, to cook, to work out a new menu, all of those things. So she, sadly, her health continued to deteriorate. She's in more pain. She's got worse mobility, and she's still a young woman. She's still someone who's got so much to offer, a fantastic person, a very bright, intelligent person. But really in this situation where her issues with her health now and a lack of mobility are affecting the quality of her life. And, this does paint quite a negative picture, but it's really quite typical of something that would happen to all of us if we didn't take care of ourselves. Women, we're life's multitaskers. We're really capable. We're brilliant multitaskers. We're great at doing at it. And we're really proud that we can do so many things and keep so many plates spinning. And for a lot of us, I know for a while, it was very much part of my own identity of who I was, someone who could just do loads of things. But we take on more than our fair share. We really care about doing a good job. So whatever we do, we put a lot of effort into it. We go above and beyond what we're asked to do constantly. And over time, As we get older, we have kids, our careers take off, we've got homes that we're running, our responsibilities overall start to increase. And what happens then is we get squeezed out of our own lives. We can find that by our time that we're in our late 30s and our 40s, we've not noticed how much pressure's built up. And quite often, perimenopause is a time when we start to realise that things have got out of hand, because that's when we start to notice that maybe our health is suffering. Maybe we look at the weight, a lot of women sort of start to notice when they've put weight on, but weight is just a symptom of other things that are happening in your life, as in not enough time to take care of yourself, too much stress, etc. So our health is suffering. We notice changes in our body. We know that we're struggling. We might not feel as strong as we used to. But we feel stuck. We know we don't know how to stop all these plates spinning. We just think if we try anything different, everything's just going to come crashing down. So we don't know what to do. But it's a time when we know we have to make changes, okay? We know that we need to eat healthier food. We need to figure out what healthier food is, maybe, what makes sense, what's going to work for us as an individual. We know we need to exercise. We know we need time to de-stress. We need more sleep. All of those things we know we need, but there's one thing that you have to accept, that change will not happen if your life is so congested. Unless you find time to make that change, things have to go, because doing an exercise schedule, it takes time. Changing your diet takes time. Figuring out what, new recipes, what works for you, what you like, takes time. Relaxing takes time. And the only person who can make time for you is you. Okay. We're the only people who are in control of that. So we have to start thinking about how we learn to say no. And if you think about it, we've got a couple of options. Saying hi to Maeve. We've got a couple of options if we're going to try and say no. We have to say no, which means do less. Or we get help. That means we have to start delegating things. Or we let people wait. And that means we have to start setting boundaries. Because the opposite is this, that we're always saying yes to people, which means they get more of what they want. Or we take more work on ourselves. So those other people, they have more time. Or we feel that we're constantly on call. And that means that we're saying inadvertently that other people's needs come before us. So that's what's happening when we're not setting boundaries and we're just the people who are saying yes all the time. And, it's interesting to look at why we're actually like this. How is, this is something that a lot of women will share. For sure, we've learned from our families or, past generations, traditional social cultural roles. A lot of us will have grown up in households where our, my mum didn't work, she did part-time jobs. She was of an age where as soon as you got pregnant, you had to leave work. So you didn't even often have the choice to work. So you were then the person doing the housework, having the dinner on the table when the dad came home. It's a sad fact that women also have to work harder than men to prove ourselves in the workplace. So that's another thing that puts pressure on us to do more. Also, and studies have shown this, that we have to be more compliant and likable to get on with in life. Men can be more abrupt and more curt and more direct. We have to try and be nice and ask people in a nice way or friendly way or be apologetic for things. So we have to come at things in a completely different way to get what we want or to progress our careers, which tends to mean we have to work harder, we have to take on more, we don't feel like we can say no. And certainly ageism is certainly a thing that you may start to feel when you get into your 40s and late 40s and 50s. That's probably when I started feeling it. I think when I was sort of towards my late 40s, you can feel a bit less secure in your job as you get older. You can feel less relevant as a bigger proportion of the workforce is younger and bringing something new and different. And again, we have to prove ourselves. We work harder. And then menopause, can't have many conversations without at least acknowledging that, because, a lot of the symptoms of menopause, the brain fog, the overwhelm, forgetfulness, maybe if we're having bad sleeps, we can struggle to sort of do everything, which means we actually have to try harder to keep up. So we just create this really intense work schedule, there's just no room for us. And one of the ways I want to think about it, or like to think about it, is that we actually lose touch with ourselves. And a lot of the things, when I say that, it's part of what I've noticed about myself, because I think, for decades, from when you maybe get really into your career, buy a house, get with somebody, have kids, you start to shift your attention. This happens for years and years and years onto others, and have a think about this. If think about someone who's important in your life, it could be your partner or your boss or your kid or a friend. Do you notice when there's something wrong with them or when they don't seem like themselves? We can be really hypersensitive to other people's moods and needs. I'm always sort of scrutinizing my daughter or my partner's expression to sort of see if they're all right. And, you have this feeling that you're responsible for making them happy, making them feel cared for, making them feel loved, or if it's your boss, keeping them happy, keeping them off your back, keeping yourself, to feel like you're the model employee. And that becomes, we're sort of doing that in so many different places all the time. We start to become really hypersensitive to, or tuned into what's happening with other people and what they need. Are they hungry? Do they need more work? Do I need to work harder? Do I need to help them with this? And as we become more sensitive to what other people need, we then start to lose touch with our own needs, because our radar is scanning our lives all the time to actually see what other people need and what's going on there. And I feel certainly, and tell me if you agree with me, but for me, as that sort of almost took over my life, and I started to lose touch with what I needed, because that wasn't where my attention was. My attention was outward with other people. And these little things start to build up over time. And that means we don't have time to exercise. We don't have the downtime. We cook what other people want us to cook. We don't sleep when we need to sleep because we're running to someone else's schedules or trying to catch up with the things that we haven't done. We don't get the time to pursue our own hobbies. We don't get the time to focus on the things, what makes us happy. We're doing what our kids want or our partners want or what our friend wants. We quite often, people would say, what do you fancy doing? And how often do you back and say, oh, what do you want? You actually stop having an opinion about what you like. When I sort of started sort of working on this myself, I actually, if I had to ask myself, well, what do I want to eat? If someone said, where should we go out for a meal? And I was thinking, I don't even actually know what the answer would be. I think you can very easily, by being so preoccupied with other people, you've got no idea what makes you feel good. You've got no idea what you like anymore or what you want to do. And I think with part of that, you lose a sense of yourself. You actually lose touch with who you are as a person, because you're not doing anything that expresses your needs or your likes or your preferences. You've just become very slowly and insidiously a vehicle for helping other people get what they need. And over time, that does start to affect our health, just because we're simply just really squeezed out of our own lives. Okay, we put what we need to stay well, to feel energetic, to feel healthy, to have good mental health. That all goes on the back burner. And sadly, with my work puts me in contact with lots of women at this age, and I see that time and time again, just really so busy, really don't get the time to sort of do enough for ourselves. So what's the answer? I've told you a problem that you probably already know, but I think it's important to even verbalize that as a problem and say it out loud, because we can internalize a lot of these things, and it's sort of almost helpful to sort of show a mirror up to what's happening and how we feel and how it's affecting us, because there's a lot we can actually do about it. We just have to become more aware of our own behaviors and how they're not helping us, as we sort of go through life and as we start to feel that our health, our wellness, our mental health is more and more important, because it just really is. We tie it back to the things that we want to do as women. We're very capable. We can do a lot. We've got fantastic motivations and motives to do things, but it's that hope that old thing, put your own life mask on first. We have to take care of ourselves really well if we're going to be able to continue to do this, to look after the people and do the work, pursue the interests that we're really passionate about, that we really enjoy. We have to start looking after ourselves. So the answer, okay, this is the short bit. But it's all about boundaries. Okay. So I talked about some things before earlier on. There's 3 things really. And I can't tell you what to do because I don't know what your life is exactly. But there's 3 things. You've got to start either saying no or letting things go. All right. For me, I stopped doing as much housework. I didn't bother so much. It's fine. If anyone comes round, I'll clean, but that's probably the main thing that will make me clean, and house isn't any worse for it. And I've got more time. So we have to maybe start looking at our lives and think, what can we actually start to let go? The other thing as well is to start saying no more, and actually not just feeling that we always have to say yes. And that could be tiny things. Someone could invite us out for a coffee and we just haven't got time, but we might feel like we have to. So really messing up our day just so that someone else can have a coffee with us. That's a really great example of something that we can just say no to. I can't, and quite unapologetically say no. The other thing is setting boundaries, so this isn't, and I like to think about this as, it's not that we won't, it's that we'll do it when we're ready. And I think men are much better at this. Men are probably a lot better at sort of being more focused on themselves in many different respects, but letting people wait. I'm sure you can relate to the idea. Quite often you feel like you're on call, and as soon as someone wants you, you're ready to go. You'll never just say, hang on a minute, wait, or I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow. You just feel that you have to, if someone asks you something, you have to say yes straight away. So setting boundaries can be helpful around that, to just think, well, yeah, so if you feel that saying no is too hard, how about you just try and say, well, yeah, I'll do it later, or I'll do this first. So that's really key. I think something else that is really important to do is, I talked about the idea that you can lose your sense of identity, or your sense of what you like, what makes you tick, what makes you happy. And this can be something that really starts to come up around menopause, because the way menopause affects your hormones, it can actually sort of dull your just general pleasure and satisfaction from life. So you have to start thinking for yourself and start asking more of yourself about what you like, what you want to do, what you enjoy, and go on a little bit of a journey to help you rediscover those things. And that can be something that's quite lighthearted. It can be trying things, and if you don't like it, you don't have to sort of go into something full on and start paddleboarding and realize you hate it, or you just can't be bothered. It doesn't matter. You just try something once. If it's for you, great. If it's not, tick, let's try something else. But just start to be a little bit more experimental, to try and find things that you enjoy, and paying attention to that. Just to put things into perspective a bit, because I think it is quite hard in the context of this, when I'm just essentially talking to myself, to give a framework, I guess, for making change, is to just give you a bit of a case study for a lady that I did on one of my podcast shows when I was doing the coaching. And I'm sure she won't mind me talking about her. She was called Bev, and she was a mum to teenagers. She had a full-time job. She was having a really tough time with menopause, to the extent that her work had allowed her to work from home, change her hours so that she could sleep in a little bit late if she'd had a bad sleep. She ran a running group, and she was trying to improve her health. Her own running was getting worse. She knew she wanted to do strength training. She just couldn't do it. So she had all these things that she was trying to do, but she just couldn't find a way to do it. She was putting on weight. She'd been on top of her health and her fitness and all the rest of it, and all that was starting to slide back, and it was quite distressing for her. And when we went through what was going on in her life, what we realized was that she just did not have a minute for herself, to the extent where she was lying in bed on her phone, listening as people on her WhatsApp groups were sort of pinging messages, and she was answering them. So, really, when you think about how pervasive technology is, or can be, from getting up until going to bed, she was reacting and responding to other people. And the first thing that we did was said, change your phone notifications and set some boundaries so that you're not getting messages from people after a certain time. Let's say 7 o'clock. I can't remember what it was. That was all we did. Everything else we stayed the same in her life. We just said, can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. And when you've done that, and when you're not on call, what are you going to do? What do you always feel like you wish you could do that you've not had time to do yet? And she had a book that she wanted to read. And as soon as I talked to her about this book that she wanted to read, her face absolutely lit up. She was could see it was so important to her that she had this book and she was dying to read it, and told me about what it was about and the story behind it. So I said, right then, turn your phone off, read the book. Half an hour, that's all you have to do. Great, that's an easy plan, isn't it? And that's all she had to do. So what happened after that was absolutely nothing short of, well, it just blew my mind. Go back and listen to the podcast, because it's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best things I've ever done, because she did that. She changed the notifications. She read the book. And then she was like, oh my God, that was so easy. And that felt so fantastic. So next thing, she's like a woman on a mission. What else can I do? And she told me one day she was reading a book. She'd set her time for reading a book, and her teenage daughter had come up to her and said, Mum, and she went, I'm on my half an hour. I'm having half an hour reading my book. Wait. And sent this teenager away. I'm laughing because I haven't done it myself, and I should do. And she just thought, no, I'm not actually someone sending me a heart, but because that's a good one, isn't it? Because that was just she just sort of suddenly, it just clicked in her mind that this kid, it didn't matter that this kid was going to wait. No one's going to starve, are they, these days? But she was just able to say, this is my time, respect it, come back later. So she did. And the next thing, she started thinking, what else do I want to do? So she bought herself one of those cold tubs. And as I said, she was having a terrible menopause time. And that was great for her. So she had a little tub in the garden, and she was jumping in this cold tub in the evenings. Then she started going wild swimming. And she suddenly started to be able to do all these small things, and just found the time, because she was so motivated by how one small change had actually unlocked all of this stuff for her. She was still doing everything. She was still doing her job. Your kids don't disappear, do they? And she was still running her running group, but she just set some boundaries out and made some time for herself. And when she realized how easy it was and what the payoff was, because the payoff was massive, she was having a great time. And, I think if she, wouldn't be unfair of me to say it probably changed her life, because it did. She was suddenly able to put more for, change her day so that she was still doing everything as good, to the same standard for everyone else as she was before. But now she was managing to fit in things for herself. And then, you build on that. It's like a small change and like a snowball effect. She started taking more care of what she was eating. She started eating better quality food, more protein. She lost weight. It wasn't even something that she'd really ever thought she could do again. She thought that was gone. Losing weight wasn't really her goal. It ended up just being a side effect of taking better care of herself, because she was sleeping better. She was eating less because she was happy. She wasn't using food for as an emotional eating. She was doing better with her running, and she had more time for herself. And I'm sure the knock-on effect of that was she would have been a better mother, a better employee, a better partner, all of those things. And she was a happier person as a result. So that's what happens when you are able to just take a little step back, make one small change, and realize how important it is, and have that mindset change, and then start to find that, when you say no, or when you say wait, or when you say you do it, people pay attention, and it starts to take some of the burden off you, so you then can move into that space and do more stuff for you. So that, I guess, is what making yourself a priority means. This is why it's important, and hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea about how to do it as well, with a couple of nice stories thrown in. So that's that for me today. So I hope you've enjoyed that, hoping it's given you some food for thought. And it might be a good time, if you are you've got a bit of time after this finishes just to maybe do a little bit of journaling yourself and just have a think about, you know, how much you do for yourself now. And, you know, if it's not enough or you want to do more, what are the changes that you could start to make? Small changes are fine to begin with, but what are the small changes that you could start to make to give yourself a little bit more time to just do things that make you feel happier? Okay. So hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. Thank you very much for watching. Nice to see a few people. Someone's saying just about to, great way to end. So someone was saying she was just coming from work. She was about to start ironing and she's going to read instead. So that's exactly it. All right then. Have a lovely afternoon. All right. See you soon. Bye.